the first thing you need to do is start with a word that triggers an intro phrase, right? Okay, so give me a word that triggers an intro phrase. Although. Okay, now that I have my intro phrase triggered, I need to immediately enter into a complicated list. So although, and now I need to have 3 steps in a process. So although school is for learning, vaping in the bathroom.
What?
And what's one more thing that school is for?
I mean, you kind of covered it all.
Playing. So those school is for learning, vaping in the bathroom, and beating Roy in fantasy football. Great. Now my intro phrase is ended. So I have a complicated list. School is for learning, step 1. Vaping in the bathroom, step 2. Beating Roy in fantasy football, step 3. My intro phrase is ended. Now what has to happen? Because I use the word although, I need to do what? I need to contrast. So what would be a good, nice way to contrast with school being for learning, vaping in the bathroom, and beating Roy in fantasy football?
It will not be useful in real life.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's for, it will not be, school is not useful for real life, or it will not be useful in the real world. Period. And there you go. You have yourself a complicated list inside of a sentence. Or sorry, a complicated list inside of an intro phrase. Does that make sense, one and all? All right. Take out your books for a quick moment and open up to the pages that we were dealing with yesterday. You all came up with beautiful explanations about each of those terms: figurative language, syntax, diction, imagery, tone, and mood. Tomorrow there will be an open note quiz that involves those terms. So I would recommend that if you haven't already taken notes from the book or taken notes from the video, do one of those 2 things. The videos are a little more comprehensive because your classmates are giving examples for each of those things, whereas the book doesn't necessarily give an example each time. So marrying those 2 is the best. The open note quiz will also run through page 37. So you have some of your own notes to take concerning the specific elements to poetry. So it'll say things like, what are some of the poetry words they have in there? Form, rhyme, meter, yeah, all that sort of stuff. Also, annotation. When you get to annotation, that's really the last thing that you need to concern yourself with for the quiz. The rest of it is really like graphic organizers, and that doesn't matter to you. So take notes on the special considerations for poetry. Does that make sense, one and all? So open note quiz tomorrow on the figurative language, tone, diction, syntax, and the special considerations of poetry. Flip back to the tone, syntax, diction thing, though. We're going to play around with those words a little bit today. So I got a fancy poem in my hands. 2 poems, actually. We are just going to jam with this bad boy today and maybe get to another one. We'll see where the wind blows. Took a sharp turn. Okay. All right, flip it over to the side where it says, do not go gentle into that good night. Now, you know from earlier in class, when you are coming across poetry, what do?
You read it over one time without analyzing it at all.
Well, as you're reading it, you're doing what? 3 things. Experiencing it, analyzing it, extending it. Experience means you're hot taking, you're having thoughts, opinions, beliefs. Analysis means you're noticing details. And what does extension mean?
Apply it to real life.
Right now it's apply to real life. So I'm going to read this, and then kind of like as a class, we're going to have our own little experience analysis extension. Hopefully hold this poem up, the color slide of it to the light, water ski across the surface of the poem, wave to the author, find our way out of the poem like a mouse through a maze. Then after we do that, we will strap the poem down to a chair and beat it with a rubber hose, saying, hey, poem, tell me about your metaphors. Tell me about your friggin' paradox. What's going on here? Maybe waterboard it a little bit. I have some towels in here. We can go we got a bunch of water bottles. Have a pleasant time waterboarding this poem. There we go. Poem. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rage at close of day. Rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage against the dying of the light. Wild men, who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men, near death, who see they were with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on a sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. You said an emotional moment, Wyatt. Foiled. All right. So, experience analysis. Class, what are you noticing or what is sticking out to you? Please ignore for right now the questions along the side as much as you can.
The rhyme scheme.
What about the rhyme scheme?
It rhymes "ite" words a lot.
Is the rhyme scheme consistent throughout, or does it ever change?
It's ABA.
ABA. So consistent, giving us a rhythm, and then
The last stanza is 4 long, so it can't be ABA.
it's ABA.
A.
Whenever you notice a rhyme scheme be interrupted, oftentimes that's the poet drawing your attention to a specific part. So we've noticed the rhyme scheme and it's given us nice rhythm, except the end, which is different. So as a reader, we should be thinking about, okay, let's spend a little bit more time at the end at some point. Very good, Mr. Hayes. What else are you noticing, experiencing, or analyzing?
He repeats a lot of things.
Like what?
Like, do not go gentle into that good night.
Do not go gentle into that good
Against the
night.
dying of the light.
Rage against the dying of the light. Now, as experienced readers, if something is repeated,
Is it?
it may well be important. So let's spend a little bit of time with these important lines. Do not go gentle into that good night. What's going on here? We got a literal thing or a metaphorical thing?
Metaphorical.
All right, why do you say metaphorical? Or what is the metaphor?
He's not actually saying go gentle into that good night.
Say what?
He's not actually saying walk in the dark.
Thank you. That's metaphor. So what is it saying?
Be careful.
About? Or be careful.
Don't be careful. Be careful.
Be don't careful.
Do not go gentle into that
So
night.
Be careful.
rage. Do not go gentle. What is the opposite of gentle?
Not going gentle.
You're testing me, Dirkus. Okay. What is the opposite of gentle? Rough, aggressive. Okay, so he wants us to go aggressive into that good night. He's a little serial killer here. Rage against the dying of the light. So go aggressive into that night. How do we rage against the dying of the light? So if we're raging, we're fighting the dying of the light. So what are we fighting? Darkness, death, the end. Does death in the end possibly fit here? Do not go gentle into that good night.
Yeah.
Don't go easily into death, or don't submit to death easily. Rage against the dying of the light. Rage, fight against the approaching death. Can we go with that?
Yeah.
Did any of you have that while we were reading it, or did we just come to it now?
Oh, I had.
Okay. All right. So do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rage at close of day. So knowing what we know now, or thinking what we think now, what do we got? Does that fit with that line? Old age should burn and rage at close of day. So what is he trying to say there? Somebody have a hot take or an analysis? What, Marshall?
Old people should not die.
I'll put you and Durgus in a group, and I'll put that group in the other room.
Is that like the AP?
That is the post. You're post college already.
All right.
He's in his graduate degree room. So maybe a little more nuanced about it. Old age should burn and rage at the close of day. So what should old people do? Fight. Rage and burn at the close of day. So old people, you're knocking on death's door. Fight, rage, burn. Power to the people. Now things get interesting. Though wise men at their end know dark is right. So if dark equals what? Death. So wise men know dark is right. So if you're wise,
You know you're gonna die.
and you don't just know you're going to die,
Inevitable.
you should be dying. You know that death is the right thing. So wise men know death is the right thing. Why does that make sense? For wise men to know that death is the right thing to happen to them.
Because it's inevitable.
Yeah, they're aware of the existential crisis that exists in the world. Because their words had forked no lightning. Because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle.
Their words don't, like, people don't listen to them.
Yeah, and where do you get people don't listen to them out of that, Durkus?
Because their words, well, I thought words and then had no lightning, meaning kind of like they have no say. They have no, like.
Yeah, inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because their words had not done anything, they forked no lightning. These words are lightningness. They rage. Why would wise people rage if their words are forking no lightning? So what do they have to do before they die?
They gotta rage.
They gotta get people to listen. They gotta fork some lightning. They gotta throw out some hot takes. The wise people just coming up, going, "You suck. You're cool. You're cool. You suck. I never really liked you. Hey, here's a interesting quote to make your day. Here, let me change your life. They get you off the path of temptation." Good men, their last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in the green bay. So we have wise men, now we have good men doing what?
Wave goodbye.
Not just waving goodbye.
Wave good die. They're dying.
Are they saying they're gonna get to heaven or something like that?
Showing regret at the things that they couldn't have done better.
Okay, yeah. So why they're crying, right? Why are they crying? They're waving, last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Say your piece again, Wyatt.
They're regretting how that they did all these things, but had they have done them and had a bit more luck, they could have gone somewhere better. Pretty much.
Or their deeds may have accomplished more.
Yeah.
How are the deeds described? What key word?
Frail.
Okay, so by describing frail good deeds, suggests what about these good deeds beyond saying that they are frail?
throw me a curveball.
I know.
It said they didn't really do that much.
Yeah, it was a good deed,
Insignificant.
not lasting. What would be an example of a frail good deed?
Helping a grandma across the street.
Yeah. So, I mean, big whoop. What did you really accomplish? Okay. So,
We're not going.
yeah. So because they want for more, what do these good people do? They rage, right? They fight because they are not satisfied with the accomplishments of their life, just like the wise men. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight. Whew, what's this? This is kind of exciting. Anybody know anybody who's danced with the sun?
Oh, Icarus.
They got lost in the sun.
What did Icarus do?
Dancing with the stars.
He got too close to the sun, and then like the wax on his feathers melted, and fell and died.
So he tried to fly higher, kind of like chasing the sun. The sun ended up beating him. So wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight. What does that mean? What does it mean to be wild, to catch the sun, to sing the sun?
Something reckless and dies.
It's something reckless, right? It's reckless to go chase after the sun. Even if you just looked at the sun, you'd go blind, right? Okay, so wild men who are going after the sun and learn too late, they grieved on its way. How did Icarus learn too late?
He died.
Yeah. Got up there, wax started melting, goes, oh, that's why they don't want me to fly this high. He learned it as he died. Okay? So these wild men, why do they fight against the dying of the night?
They're smarter. They don't know any better.
And they've just been wild and crazy chasing the sun. They don't have any wisdom. They don't have any accomplishments. Okay, so all of these people, what's a comparison? Why are all of them fighting against death?
Because they don't want to die. They think living's better.
Be more specific than that.
They've got more to do still. They
That-
don't feel accomplished yet.
Closer is something a little darker about why they're fighting against the darkness of the night.
They don't know what's past it.
They're afraid to die.
No idea.
Are they satisfied or not with their life?
No.
They're not satisfied. So they're fighting against the dying of the night because they're not satisfied with the way they lived. How is that kind of a sad thing? This poem oftentimes is held up as like triumphant. Go for it, man. You got to stick around. You got to rage against the dying of the light. Are the people who are raging against the dying of the light people that we should be admiring right now?
No.
Oh, why not?
Because they're chumps.
Yes, they're chumps.
Ew.
This is suggesting that to rage against the dying of the night is to not have lived a life fulfilled, right? So if I'm telling you to rage against the dying of the night, and again, this is something that a lot of people do, appears a lot at funerals. No, if you're telling someone to rage against the dying of the light, you are suggesting that their life has yet to have meaning or yet to have some sort of completeness to it. Grave men near death, who with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. This one's a toughie. I mean, by calling people grave men near death, it's telling you what type of person is this?
They're almost dead.
Oh, yeah.
There.
1 foot in, right? So somebody who is near death, who sees with blinding light. How can a person who is near death see with blinding light?
Blinding sight.
See with blinding sight.
Being near death might give you a new perspective on your life
How so?
because your time is a lot more limited.
You realize there's not as much you can do, and you have such a small amount of time to be able to accomplish what else you want to do.
Think about what you want to think about, care about, talk to who you want to talk to, right? When you're on death's door, you pretty much just take stock of what is essentially important to you. I kind of explained this to the first class too in a way that we've all made mistakes, right? Like we've all had a mistake where that was a big one. And as soon as you realize that mistake was a big one, all of a sudden your perception of the events leading up to that big mistake becomes crystal clear. And you are able to immediately understand what the stupid decisions you made were, or what was the original stupid decision that led to that mistake. Does that make sense? So here you're dying, your mind is going to cut out all the crap. Okay, so the people near death can see with blinding sight. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay.
Someone that doesn't really know, or is like blinded with blinding sight, they don't really know what they want. It's like kind of similar to that, isn't it?
I don't know exactly.
Well, the blinding sight gave their new perspective, say they could, with that new perspective, really live the way they wanted to in their last moments.
Just out. Write out an answer to this one. So they could do what, Mr. Schmidt?
Live the way they wanted to live, go out like a meteor.
They could spread some wisdom, make a difference in the person's lives that they love and care about, and they could be happy. Rage against the dying of the light. So that suggests that they could do that, right? But what do they do instead? Rage, be angry, go off. All right, now last stanza, finally. I mean, we know that the rhyme scheme has changed so that this one is going to be weird in a way. And you, my father. So now poet is addressing who? Okay. And you, my father, there on the sad height.
He's the one that's about to die.
Curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray.
Saying he wants to die?
No, he wants him to watch over him in a sense, bless him. He wants him to give grace.
Oh, it's like to bless me with your fierce tears, I pray.
Oh, he wants to fight, sort of fighting like him.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. So he wants his father to do what? Fight. Now, we already established in the beginning that to fight means what?
Not
To have a not fully fulfilled life.
All right. Is he suggesting that his father has a not fully fulfilled life?
Maybe he's young.
No, he still wants.
Maybe he's
to
just
his dad.
saying he wants him.
Yeah.
He doesn't want him to die.
He wants him to stay there, right? So it's not so much at this point that this is the shift. This is the turn. Up until now, it's been, rage because you haven't had a life fulfilled. Now at the end, it's a more personal thing. Rage. I want you to bless me with your tears. Now, if the father has fierce tears, hey, what is the implication of fierce tears as opposed to another type of tear? Yeah, sad tears. What would be a fighting tear? A fierce tear is a fighting tear. What does that mean? A fighting tear.
He's not giving up. He wants to live.
Yeah, it's a struggle, right? It's not just you're just a moment of reflection and you're silently sobbing or quietly sobbing. Like a fierce tear it's a fighting tear. You're fighting against something. So what does this suggest about his father at this moment? And what might be causing his death?
Disease.
Yeah. Is it like an old age thing? It's like a heart attack thing, surrounded by friends and loved ones. Now, this is a tough thing. And yet the son still wants the father to fight against the dying of the night. Now, kind of implicit in this is the father's perspective. Flip it around. If the son is writing this because he wants his dad to stay around, to bless him with his tears, to not leave, what do you think the father wants? And what do you think the father would prefer if he's fighting? He has fierce tears. It's tough.
Let him go.
Give me the night, baby. This thing sucks.
Oh my god.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that coming to the realization of seeing this from the father's point of view and contrasting it with the son's point of view in this poem, if you were able to do that on your own, I mean, that's pat on the back. You're really seeing the forest from the trees, or vice versa. I don't quite understand that metaphor. All right, what I want you to do. So there we experienced, we analyzed, we had some fun. Now let's beat this poem up with a hose. What I want you to do, start with the one that says, ID and explore the paradox in stanza 5. What is ironic in stanza 6? And then skip the who does the poet one, and then think about the last two. With the person sitting next to you, I want you to go through those questions. The one about paradox, the one about irony, the one where it says compose a simile, and lastly where it says theme of the poem. What I want you to do right now is don't write anything down necessarily, but I want you to talk through what an answer would be to those questions. Answering these questions is tough. And what I'm asking, or what I want to see you try to do when we come back in about 10 minutes and share these out loud, is I don't want you just to say, hey, here's a paradox, or here's the irony, or I don't want you to just say, hey, here's what the paradox means. You need to merge those two things. So be able to identify clearly the paradox. Paradoxes are hard to identify because you know from yesterday a paradox means what? Something seems, but it's actually. So in order to do that, you first need to explain and then explain how that contradiction can be true. Sounds like you're going to need to have a contrast relationship in that sentence, which might require a
Complicated.
Complex.
an intro phrase, coordinated conjunction that indicates contrast. Same thing with irony. What is said is different than what is meant. So something's going to happen. You have to say how the effect of that is different than what is explicitly stated. So just talk through what answers to that would sound like. I will call on some people randomly. Hopefully you're able to verbalize some fun stuff. And then maybe we'll have homework, maybe we don't. Kind of depends on how these last 15 minutes go. So at 2:41, we're going to come back. If you want to work by yourself, go right ahead. Otherwise, tag yourself on the group.
See with like, what's like, title site, right? Really saying blind was the title. Yeah. I'm good. He's saying. And the new persuader guy said, very quiet. So is that good enough? Oh, about
Oh, because the dad wants to die, but the somebody doesn't call his dad a not fulfilled chum.
Or it's just how he thinks his dad's like this wants to stay. Where his dad's
That's a paradox. We contradict each other.
So how does, what is this? Like, even notice it, they have to do it.
What's it?
Wow. They should live like.
Like Larry.
With
The paradox might be
concerns
like
for their
blind
health
eyes.
and live in the
Obviously, blind eyes can't see.
You want everyone to be something like that. They want to
I like-
small things like, or like, helping
in a
people
milk van.
or having
band.
being
Yeah, you
wise.
remember like the old days of milk boy. I'd be a milk boy. Yeah.
Life would be like,
Exactly. You don't need a horse license.
or something real expectations, or like,
You know,
Yeah,
but you gotta push the average. But I mean, if my parents have a car And I can't drive, but if my parents on a horse, I can ride the horse.
Yeah, but you gotta register your horse.
I don't have to, it's only registered my parents.
Say like
Right.
full jar.
Well, I'm talking like olden days where they
Feel
had
like
for
it's
sure.
like-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no officers gonna pull me over in a Ford Explorer.
It's ironic
Tell
that they want
me,
two opposite things.
I need some license and registration.
Son wants to.
Yeah.
No, the dad wants to tell it.
Yeah, I know, I hate those people. The ones that look like
Way down.
undercover. Yeah, I know, and then they're just like some dumb idiot on the phone talking to them. Get a different car, you jump.
Here's a bigger
What
was your symbol?
life is like a gallon of milk. Or live life like a gallon of milk. Oh,
I said full jar, right? Yeah.
Who does this one?
But there's that, let's just go with it.
well, my other one was pretty good, but
Yeah. I'm not mad.
It didn't go anywhere.
yeah, it did. It really didn't.
Okay.
Who is the fourth in this?
Yeah, that's the message. Okay, well.
Yeah, it's boundary.
Yeah. Rage.
What's the symbol?
It
The author or how it's trying to convey? The author feels that they should fight against the
Live a life that you're proud of living.
Yeah.
author feels that.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
More than what you do.
That you live their life before they die.
Do the good things before you die. Like you have with no regrets.
No regrets.
Shoot. Shoot. Use it. Made sense in my head.
If I had
But
food,
then
I
you
would-
also said
I
something
would
like,
reciprocate.
You know what my favorite song is? When I make like a baby.
who like had too much ambition. So is he trying to say like, live in moderation?
What's the
Make
theme?
like a tree leaf.
What's the
Yeah, it goes over the top like a waterfall.
What's the symbol? How is it?
Live every day like it's their last.
What's it? Composes
Like something like
But it's light.
You said like.
nuclear bomb.
Like literally day light is your last.
Like
It
that.
was fine. A balance between
Doing good. Like yin and yang.
I think you should just go with a gallon of milk.
the point across.
Alright, if we go first, we'll take a gallon of milk.
Wow, okay.
And not put in some big.
Got the good old machine.
Yeah, it's
What?
It was a scam. Get an extra refund.
Or-
No, have them pay you to eat that one.
Struggling against the inevitable.
Wow. Well, yeah, the chocolate is fat free too. Yeah.
He's the one who begins, he's like, that's the whole. They're like, he's like laughing at the whole, just getting drowned.
It's the same test.
Yeah, it's definitely
Struggling.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like a
balance. What balance?
balance is
Oh, you got sniped. Oh, holy crap. That's pretty good. We still haven't got a simile. So my name is up there. It's a tail.
I catch you.
Oh, yeah.
You have a question problem.
Oh, yeah, you're doing the track video. For what? Thing. our multimedia video.
Yeah.
You need to wear your track
I
uniform
think
tomorrow.
it's like, there's.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
struggle.
I don't even have a track uniform.
You'll get one.
We'll get you.
Say, and teammates.
regret,
you
Yeah, you get to say and teammates.
Because wise men who never forced any, like,
There you go.
they never went
Have fun.
against,
Just say,
like,
and teammates.
I never signed up for that.
You don't get to sign up for it.
Have Jack do it.
You get chosen.
Oh, he's doing football.
Good man.
What is he wearing around?
Never truly did.
That he's doing his Friday.
And
Say, and teammates.
What if I don't do track? Then that'd be about.
we're
only showing it.
they lost to
No, so it'd be fine if you didn't do that.
basketball. And,
Volleyball.
still play
Basketball, volleyball, wrestling.
No, I don't want to. I'm so goofy in my track and no,
Have
have someone else do it.
We can't.
Yeah, you're the only one.
Right. Let's think
Specific
of.
duty, yeah.
Have Ethan do it.
He's already doing something else.
He doesn't have a face for.
Why did they? This is.
They're in multimedia.
Join the class if you want to make these decisions. All right.
Have Caleb do it.
He's already doing something else.
Already do something else. Caleb has a pretty important.
You don't know how tight those track.
Who wants to take first crack at the paradox in stanza 5? All right, Durgus. I just got it.
I'm doing it. I
All right.
guess.
Hale.
So you want to intro phrase and.
I just want you to tell me identify the contradiction. Tell me how it can be true.
So the paradox would be we see with blinding sight, and the contradiction is that people can't really see, or like with blinding sight, but it's really eye-opening sight. That's right.
That was off. Who would like to take another track at it? That group.
We pretty much said that like blind people can't see.
All right.
That's what we were.
So that's the first part of it.
Yep.
That seems like a contradiction. Blind people get the paradox in stanza 5 is that it states that blind people can see with blind eyes can blaze like meteors and be gay. All right, so that how can blind eyes blaze? Because blind people can't see. Right? There's the first part. Now tell me how that can be true. While stanza 5 states explicitly that blind people, it actually means
just, I don't know, find truth, like the darkness like obfuscates all this like truth and all that, but you finally get the sight to see through all that and find it.
so what this line is actually saying is that people who are on death's doorstep may be blinded by light but see truth in the world, right? How do they see truth? They know what's important and relevant. So who thinks they can try to take everything we just talked about and put it into a sentence? We got all the ideas out there.
Well, the poem would make it seem that people at death's door are blind and cannot see what's important. They actually, with their blindness, can see the true priorities of life.
The fact that they are on death's doorstep enables them to see their true priorities in life.
Yeah.
That would be good. Okay, tough, not easy to talk about a paradox, right? But this is what we need to practice. Irony in stanza 6. Tell me about that.
I mean, we already kind of talked about it. It's ironic because the dad wants to go, but the son wants him to rage against the dying of the light. And he's kind of saying how the father doesn't have a completely fulfilled life. But the father believes his life is complete.
You have so much
No.
This is a paradox. There's so much right and wrong at the same time.
Well, I mean, if you think about it optimistically, then that's so much right.
Half full.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the school system obviously is full of narcissists.
It's the wrong word.
Pessimist.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sad because I don't think the microphone picked that up. That's internet gold. Somebody over here, take a crack at it.
We kind of got stuck on this one. Like, we were also talking about how the curse could be in relation to the dad because he's ready to die. He's ready to go. But then like it would be a blessing if he stayed with his son. We were talking about that, but we didn't really get much.
It would be a blessing if he stayed with his son. It would also be a blessing if he didn't have to
Have to write.
fight, rage, suffer
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
We all have to die, sadly. Facts of life. All right, so playing around with that idea would work out well. It sounds like sounds like we didn't really get at, we were either too afraid to put forth a serious effort in terms of being able to talk about one of these complex things, or we just didn't have the time. So turns out we have plenty of time now, 23 hours. What I want you to do is take a crack at writing out a response to either the paradox or the irony. So a written response in addition to identifying the theme of the poem. I will expect your themes to be good tomorrow since we practiced those at length earlier this week. Remember when we were in the big group? We were throwing out theme statements like they were going out of style. Okay, so come up with a sentence like that for this poem in addition to trying to do a good job of clearly discussing either paradox or irony in one of those two questions. Does that make sense, one and all?
Yeah.
All right.
Theme or paradox.
No, you have to do the theme one. You do irony or paradox. One or the other. Did you have a good one? Lay it down.